Ki. I am Vishnupad, Sapram Rajagachari Shilpa Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki. I am Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagachari Shilpa Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Lord. Hare Krishna. Okay. I'm trying to figure out where to put this so that. Ooh, maybe right here's. Okay. So, so we always have a Zoom audience as well. Just to let everyone in person know. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, if devotees have a device or would like to share, we're reading from Canto 6, Chapter 2, Text 35. What did the Prabhu that gave class yesterday, did he give like from one of these verses or he gave on a completely different topic? Okay, cool. Just wondering if I should do a recap of where we are or if he was explaining the past time. Okay, so 6 to 35. I'll give everyone a minute. All right. So ham tataya tishyami. Oh wait, it's okay. I know it takes a while. Right. So ham tataya tishyami. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yatana puya atmanam. Andhe tamasimajaye. Soham tataya tishyami. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yatana puya atmanam. Andhe tamasimajaye. Soham tataya tishyami. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yatana puya atmanam. Andhe tamasimajaye. Would anybody like to repeat? It's okay if your Sanskrit's not perfect. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Soham tataya tishyami. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yatana bhuya atmanam. Andhe tamasi majaye. Nice. Anyone else? I can try. Soham tataya tishyami. Soham tataya tishyami. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yata chittendriya nilaha. Yatana bhuya atmanam. Yatana bhuya atmanam. Te tamasi majjaye. Andhe tamasi majaye. One more. Soham tataya tishyami yata chitchendriya nilam yatana bhuya atmanam ande tamasimaje. Great, thank you guys. Such a person. Aham, I. Tata, in that way. Yatityami, I shall endeavor. Yata chitta indriya, controlling the mind and senses. Anila, and the internal airs. Yata, so that. Na, not. Puya, again. Atmanam, my soul. Ande, in darkness. Tamasi, in ignorance. Majaye, I drown. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Gita. Translation: I am such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life, and senses, and always engage in devotional service so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. Purport: every one of us should have this determination. We have been elevated to an exalted position by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master. And if we remember that this is a great opportunity and pray to Krishna that we shall not fall again, our lives will be successful. Om Jnanatimanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you everyone for being here. Just a recap of this pastime. So how many of you have read the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Okay. So if you haven't read it, have you ever heard of Ajamil? Yeah. So Ajamil was an exalted Brahmana at the beginning of his life. I'm just going to very much condense this. And then he was out and about and he saw two, I guess, kind of explains low-class people that they were embracing, and then his mind became very disturbed. He had a very nice, chaste, beautiful wife, a Brahmani wife, and then he was walking along wherever he was, and then he saw this scene, and his mind became very contaminated and very agitated, and so then he then began relations with a prostitute and yeah, had children even into his old age. I think it said did he have the child when he was 88 or he was like about to leave his body when he was 88? Anyway, either way, he had a young son named Narayan and he had him when he was very old by this prostitute. So at the time of death, Ajamil, he's laying on his deathbed, and the Yamadutas, the servants of Yamaraj, who's the Lord, the demigod in charge of taking the living entity to whatever destination he deserves based on his karma and activities in this life. And so he has servants called Yamadutas, Yamaraj, and then Yamadutas, and the Yamadutas are coming to rip the soul out of the body of Ajamil. So Ajamil is in a terrified condition, and he's calling out to his son, whom he named Narayan, and he's yelling Narayan, Narayan. Or he just, I think in one class we made the point that he only called the name once, and that was enough. And because he did it without offense, calling out this holy name of Krishna, then the Vishnu Dutas, who are the servants of Vishnu, came and blocked the Yamadutas and said, no, you cannot take this sinful, well, this living entity who did commit a lot of sins in his life. And the Yamajutas are so confused. They're like, why are you impeding us from doing our job that we're supposed to do? So there's a philosophical back and forth. Um, and the Yamajutas are very confused. And the Vishnudutas say, listen, yeah, he did do a lot of bad things in his life, but because he once chanted the name of Krishna without offense, that means he's under our care now. So this is, anyway, there's so much to be said about this pastime, and we've been talking about it so much, the power of chanting Krishna's name, um, the also the power of Maya to, whatever we take in through the senses, even if it's unwittingly. I mean, just existing in Kali Yuga, you're taking in so much that is like forced on you against your will, and how that contaminates the consciousness and what we can do. And yeah, so many topics to discuss. But I'll just read the past from text 32. Okay, so then coming up to this point, after the Yamadutas and Vishnudutas have this debate, and the Yamadutas, relinquish Ajamil to the Vishnudutas, then Ajamil, he sees the Vishnudutas, and he becomes he starts to lament about his position and how he, wasted his life. He fell down. He had such like a great upbringing and great beginning of his life, being very controlled in his senses, a great brahmana. And then he's like surrendering to Krishna. So he ends up at the end of the story, pastime, he was a great devotee. So anyway, I'll just go back. These are like his prayers of lamentation, I guess, regret, but not a material lamentation that, oh, woe is me. And he's like navel gazing and beating himself up in like a mode of ignorance kind of way, but in a productive way that's leading him closer to Krishna, actually. So, yeah, so, okay, this is him reflecting on what the scene that he's just seen. First, the Yamadutas, which are horrifying. I mean, we don't have the book, but I wish I could show you guys the picture. They have these ropes, and they literally are, it's such a horrifying experience to have the soul ripped from the body, because the soul is so attached to that body. And that's like your home and your protection, at least you feel like that. And so the Yamadutas is trying to rip the soul out of the body. And then you see the Vishnudutas, and his soul is explained that his soul is in like, while this whole conversation is going, or debate between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, his soul's just kind of in limbo while they're doing all this. So anyway, now that Ajamil, he's reflecting. So he said, "Was this a dream I saw, or was it reality? I saw fearsome men with ropes in their hands coming to arrest me and drag me away. Where have they gone? And where have those four liberated and very beautiful persons gone who released me from arrest and saved me from being dragged down to the hellish regions? I'm certainly most abominable and unfortunate to have merged in an ocean of sinful activities, but nevertheless, because of my previous spiritual activities, I could see those four exalted personalities who came to rescue me. Now I feel exceedingly happy because of their visit. Were it not for my past devotional service, how could I, a most unclean keeper of a prostitute, have gotten an opportunity to chant the holy name of Vaikuntapati when I was just ready to die? Certainly it could not have been possible. Ajamil continued, I am a shameless cheater who has killed his Brahminical culture. Indeed, I am sin personified. Where am I in comparison to the all auspicious chanting of the holy name of Lord Narayan? And then today's verse, I am such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life, and senses, and always engage in devotional service so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. So while I was reading through these prayers, I was thinking of it reminded me so much of the prayers of Muchakunda in the Krishna book. Who's read Krishna book or started it? Okay, nice. So I think it's chapter 54. Let me pull it up. But I always really loved these prayers of Muchakunda, and in the same way that Ajamil is doing, Muchakunda, he's actually such a great personality. He's a really great kshatriya. Oh, it is not chapter 54. And devotee as well, but he's lamenting in his humility, he's lamenting how he's wasted his life and how he's, people might call him such a great king, but whenever he goes home at night, he's at the, you know, essentially falling at the feet or at the service of his wives, like this, that, and the other. And what chapter is that? I just found it the other day and it was hard for me to find. But oh, there it is, 51. Um, but the prayers are so beautiful, and I just find them, I've always found them so relatable. Um, yeah, he has such a great lineage. He's coming from the line of Ikshvaku, who's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as well, right? Let me find this. So, okay, in short, pastime of Muchakunda, also a recap, is Kaliyavana is who's a demoniac personality, is chasing Krishna. He chases Krishna into a cave. Muchakunda is lying there, and Kaliyavana can't find Krishna, so he thinks Muchakunda that's sleeping on the floor of this cave is Krishna. So he kicks him, and then Muchakunda looks up. So he wakes up and he like burns Kalyavana to ashes because Mushakuna had the benediction that he had been fighting for so long for the demigods. So then they asked him, what benediction do you want? You've been doing so much service for us. And he said, I just want to sleep. So let me have the benediction that I can sleep, and whoever wakes me up, I burn them to ashes with my vision. So Krishna is accomplishing two things at once here. He's um, like he's giving Muchakunda his association, so liberating Muchakunda, and at the same time killing Kalyavana. So doing both things simultaneously. So, okay, so then Muchakunda he's wondering who Krishna is. He's like, oh, because then Krishna appears before him and he's like, what? Who is this transcendental personality? But the etiquette is that, if it's obviously a superior person, that you would introduce yourself first before asking them, demanding to know, who are you? So then Mochakunda explains who he is. And then he goes about these prayers. It's a long chapter. I'm just trying to find. I'll just read a little bit. This one little quote that he has. So he says, My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I can understand that all living entities on this planet are illusioned by your external energy and enamored of the illusory satisfaction of sense gratification. Being fully engaged in illusory activities, they are reluctant to worship your lotus feet. And because they are unaware of the benefits of surrendering unto your lotus feet, they are subjected to various miserable conditions of material existence. They are foolishly attached to so-called society, friendship, and love, which merely produce different kinds of miseries. Illusioned by your external energy, everyone, whether man or woman, is attached to this material existence, and all are engaged in cheating one another in a great society of the cheaters and the cheated. These foolish persons, not knowing how fortunate they are to have obtained this human form of life, are reluctant to worship your lotus feet. By the influence of your external energy, they are attached to the glare of material activities, to so-called society, friendship, and love, like dumb animals that have fallen into a dark well. And then Prabhupada explains further. So Mujukunda keeps going on and on. He's saying how this is him, essentially. Like he's giving philosophy, but he's also saying, oh man, this is so me. Like I'm so absorbed in sense gratification, this, that, and the other. And this is really the humility of the devotee, or even of Ajamil, in the case that we're reading, that he was completely absorbed in sinful life, but just by seeing the Vishnu Dutas, he completely comes to his senses, and everything changes internally for him. In the same way that, when we come into contact with devotees, like the Vishnu Dutas are devotees of Krishna, that everything changes in our internals. And actually, like, I mean, sometimes a lot of times there's still like a sort of challenging mood or with certain aspects of Krishna consciousness. And having doubts, of course, is extremely healthy, and we should like express those. But also, a lot of times, there's this natural mood of humility that arises, and it's kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, why am I uh, so receptive to listening to this person that's explaining this philosophy to me? And it's like, if we can't realize it consciously, subconsciously, our heart is being melted by the qualities of that devotee that is speaking with us, taking care of us, sharing with us. Because even if we can't put our finger on it, it's like, wow, there's definitely something different about this person, and there's not this mood of exploitation that I was explaining in one class. It's not in the material life, everyone's trying to wring each other out like a cloth, like a wet cloth. Like, how can I get as much sense gratification for me out of you? But devotees ideally we don't do that to each other, we don't do that to others. We are practicing not doing that with any of the resources in the world. We're engaging everything in Krishna's service. And so in that way, we're not trying to, everything that we see, we're trying to wring out as much juice as we think is in it for our own sense gratification, but trying to lovingly use it in Krishna's service. But that's hard to put your finger on whenever you first meet devotees, that you're like, oh, you're not trying to um, exploit me. It's just the norm of the material world. So whenever you see something different, it's like, okay, they must have like other motives, at least my skeptical mind. Like, what do you want from me? Um, so yeah, and in these purports, because I was reviewing this chapter and reading, Prabhupada is emphasizing again and again how fortunate is the opportunity to come in contact with devotees and um, yeah, just have their association, have the opportunity to get out of the material world. And some people may come and go, so some people may take up bhakti for a while, or even they just come to some programs like we were talking about in Pittsburgh, right? There's the center there. Some people come and then they never come back, right? Some people come for a while and maybe they even start chanting or yeah, whatever. They do a lot of service and then they go also. Sometimes they come back years later. So there's all kinds of different um, yeah, derivations of that coming and going. But whatever they do is not a loss. It's to their credit. We hear that all the time. But Prabhupada was operating in this way that, he wasn't, of course, we're like saddened that if somebody's like, wow, they're really coming, they're really, progressing in Krishna consciousness nicely, and then something just boom, like, slams them from the side and then draws them away, or gradually, I guess it could too. They just get too busy or other things take priority. Um, but it's not something to be depressed over. So we can feel a little bit of, a little bit of spiritual lamentation that, oh man, I wish I could do more for that person. If I need to work on myself more so that their heart can be more changed. But yeah, we shouldn't become depressed like, oh, I'm such a loser. Everybody that I try to preach to never actually takes up the process or chants or whatever. Because yeah, Prabhupada said that he was um, doing doing this service of reaching out to others in the mood of Narada Muni, who says somewhere in the Bhagavatam, I did not find the quote, sorry, um, that essentially that yeah, many will take up the process, but they might not take it up fully, or they might do it for some time and then they might go away, but still we keep on trying. Um, yeah, and that's to everybody's benefit. There's no loss. Bhagavad Gita also explains that, right? Like even a little advancement on this path can save one from the most dangerous type of fear. So yeah, Prabhupada also is explaining in the purports of this chapter that the spiritual master, yeah, gives the seed of bhakti to the disciple. And even if indirectly, right? Like sometimes there's different types of spiritual masters. Of course, there's like the Diksha guru that gives initiation, but also there's the I forget how to say the word in Sanskrit. I have it. What? No, there's well, yes, there's shiksha as well, but the first person that you meet that introduces right, yeah, that's the one. So, yeah, like okay, back to the point that the spiritual master is giving us the seed of bhakti, but sometimes we haven't even met the person that is to become our initiating spiritual master. So, in a sense, if we're meeting, like in my case, if we're meeting one of their disciples, then we're also like in a sort of direct but also indirect way getting that seed of bhakti um, planted in our heart just from the very beginning. And then it's our responsibility to water it, to nourish it. This is so funny that Leela Kishori, we had an online Zoom class yesterday, was making so many of the same points that I was thinking of. Like it's really, she was talking about how it's really our responsibility to then take care of that seed, nurture it, water it. I mean, we have gardeners here and right below us, there's a whole like seeding room. So all these plants on big trays, um, they, I mean, multiple times a week. And I see Dasi Frames down there going down there all the time because it takes nurturing, it takes care, it takes checking up on them. One time I was on the service of like, if there's two sprouts in the same cell, that's what it's called, in the same cell, then you have to take out the smaller one because it'll start taking nutrients from that. And I mean, there's this analogy can like it relates so much to bhakti that we have to be conscious of the weeds, uprooting the weeds so that they don't draw the nutrients away from our bhakti creeper. And how do we water and nurture it? By hearing and chanting. So sometimes if I'm really distracted in my japa or my reading or kirtan or whatever, I like to try to think about, okay, like hear the mantra, and as it goes in, it's literally going through my ear down to my heart and watering the seed of bhakti in my heart. Like I'm just like, it's like a flow of nutrients and water to the creeper in my heart. And that's how it flourishes and that's how it grows. Um, like, if somebody gave you somebody's going on a trip, one of your friends is going on a trip, and they're like, please take care of my um of my orchid, and they give you the pot and everything, you're going to be very attentive to like, oh my God, I can't mess this up. Like I cannot, it's like $100 plant. I cannot let this thing die on my watch. You're very attentive. You're conscious of it. You're thinking about it. Is it getting too much sunlight, getting roasted, not enough, etc., etc. And in the same way, sometimes, especially coming out of Kali Yuga, we might not care that much about ourselves, to be honest. Uh, but we are dear to either the devotees or our spiritual master. I mean, both, but you know, again, some people don't feel that they've necessarily met who they want to have as the Diksha Guru. But even the Shiksha Guru or whoever, yeah, first introduced you to Bhakti, they care about us so much. And that used to always confuse me whenever devotees say like, oh, the spiritual master cares about us even more than we care about ourselves. And I was like, oh no, man. I mean, what do you mean? I think I care about myself a lot. And the longer I've been in Bhakti, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not, on many levels, care about ourselves just because that's what we're coming from in Kali Yuga. So yeah, in the same way that, let's say we get a friend's house plant or whatever, to us, that plant might not like mean the world to us, this orchid. It's like, okay, dude, it's a plant. But to the friend, because the friend is dear to us, then we take care. And in the same way, we might really not even care about ourselves enough to like, okay, I want to get up and chant or whatever it might be. But because we are trying to please the spiritual master, yeah, or at least we can feel that they care about us so much, then we can at least put in some effort to please them by taking care of ourselves. This is okay. Basically, this is like reminded me of the pastime of Lord Chaitanya with Sanatana Goswami. This might help uh, elucidate this point. Is that Sanatana Goswami, I'll just condense it again, was going to commit suicide by jumping in the Ganga. I think it was after he had traveled right through the forest and then met Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, and I might be mixing up the pastimes, but and Lord Chaitanya like um embraced him. Am I mixing up? Anyway, well, somebody can correct me after. But yeah, Sanatana Goswami was like mortified, and then he was wanting to commit suicide, and then Lord Chaitanya said, your body does not belong to you. Like you think that this is your property to do with what you like, but that is not the case. Like you belong to Krishna. So yeah, in this way we can see like Lord Chaitanya is acting as spiritual master to Sanatana Goswami in this case, cares about him, yeah, even more than maybe he cares about himself. Of course, these are all like transcendental personalities, so Sanatana Goswami is like a pure devotee, so but just for instructing us, this pastime is taking place. So yeah, so if we water the seed, we make advancement and we can see that the process works. We can see how much we've changed from the beginning of first even meeting devotees. Sometimes it can be like, oh my God, am I even like making any advancement at all? Am I changing at all? But I think Yashadev Prabhu in somebody's class the other day was commenting at the end, like, yeah, we shouldn't feel kind of discouraged. Like our progress is evinced by how much we've changed if we reflect back, which is true. I started thinking about it after he said that, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am very different. I was thinking, actually, it brought to mind this one time when during COVID, I forget what year it was, maybe 2020, and a few of us that were living in Philadelphia, because some people got COVID, so we had to like spread out and quarantine and this and that. So we ended up at this house like just down the road, and I ended up with, I think who was in there? Kalasarup, Jiva Pandit, Parameshwari, and Parameshwari and Jiva Pandit had COVID. And just me reflecting on the way I acted towards them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to follow their feet because I was such a grouch. I was like, they were both so sick with COVID, and I was like, I'm not doing anything for them. I was like just so grumpy. And then like Jiva Pandit was lying on just like a mattress in the middle of the floor because the house was vacant. Anyway, it's like quite a long story. I mean, it's a nice house, but there's no furniture in it. Like I don't even think there was like a shower. It was a pretty old school house, so there's just one of those those bathtubs that are like detached from I don't know if yeah, yeah. I was like, there must be a name for it. And like just the water was so cold and it was the middle of winter. I think it was the whole month of December and it would snow so much. Jiva was just on this mattress, like trying to recover. And he hadn't eaten for so long, which actually helped him recover really quickly. Like Prabhupada says in some places, the fastest way over like sickness or disease is fasting. But anyway, so he hadn't eaten in so long, and then he was like, "All right, like I'm feeling better. I really need some like boiled apples or something." That he was getting over COVID. He was pretty weak, and I'm like, I'm not doing that for him. Like this and that and the other. Anyway, I'm not beating myself up because there's definitely reasons I was like grumpy, but I was reflecting on that experience, and I was like, wow. I would not do that to devotees now. And I was like, I have made some progress. My heart has softened a little bit. But yeah, those devotees are so tolerant and we're all we're very close because of that experience. And Kalaswarup, to his credit, he really like held down the fort. Man, so sometimes it snowed and it was like up to here, and he was out there shoveling the car out and like cooking for us and all this. So, yes, very eternally grateful to him. We also had no internet, so that was kind of nice though. Um, anyway, so yeah, and it was just a very inspiring experience. Like we really didn't have anything to do but quarantine, but then Jiva Pundit started reading 4 hours a day. Like we just got to a point where like, oh my God, what do we do with ourselves? And then he's like, no, I'm gonna buckle down. I'm reading 4 hours a day. I'm not letting my mind get to me. And I just always remember that. I'm like, man, that was so inspiring. So, hmm, what time is it? Oh yeah, okay. So the last thing that I wanted to discuss is that back to this point of like watering the seed of our bhakti is that Prabhupada has put in place so many things throughout the day for us to engage in and that will directly waters the seed of bhakti in our heart. It's actually such like a meticulous movement. He's such a genius, obviously, but like it's not just that, oh, here's some kind of like arbitrary Hindu-esque rituals and things that we're doing, and oh, it's just the songs are in Sanskrit or Bengali, this and that, and I don't really know what I'm saying, but I'll just, of course, you get benefit that way. But Prabhupada's like just infusing us with so much transcendental energy through from the beginning, going to Mangalarti, chanting japa, Bhagavatam class, all of that devotional service, and then and this applies for whether you're living in the temple, a grihasta, living outside, like um, hearing and chanting in the morning, and well, originally there was the ISKCON sandwich, right? So then there was the evening class as well, hearing and chanting in the evening. Um, but Prabhupada is giving us the highest knowledge. Like also some people might, there have been cases that I have heard of in the past that, people would criticize Prabhupada or just say like, oh, he's kind of giving the ABCs, he's not giving the highest, the most confidential literature of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But I mean, we're His Holiness Sabaramita Swami often says, like, have you read the translation for Jaya Radha Madhava? Have you read the translation for I mean, we just said the translation for the Tulsi Kirtan this morning, like, please make me a maidservant of, like, anyway, it's just materially, it's kind of outlandish and crazy that like, okay, the ladies, maybe it's like, oh, please make me a maidservant. And then we've got the men praying the same thing to Tulsi, like, um, for somebody just walking in to be like, whoa, what is this? And you just were like dancing around a plant, like, but Prabhupada is giving us the highest and confidential knowledge. And the way to even approach that is through Lord Chaitanya. So that is the process. The way to approach Radha Krishna is through Lord Chaitanya. And how to please Lord Chaitanya is sharing Krishna consciousness with others. So, mm, okay, I'm just going to stop there. Does anybody have any comments or questions, corrections, clarifications? Oh, here, wait, actually. So, like, here you. Thanks. Mhm. Yeah, here I can. Um, it helps so the pujaris can also hear Bhagavatam. Yeah, so thank you for asking that. So I don't know if we speak on the microphone. If devotees ask questions on the microphone, can you guys hear it on Zoom or should I repeat it?
Please repeat it.
So, Baba Mayu is asking, or just clarifying that last point that, okay, if we want to approach Radha and Krishna, the process is to go through Lord Chaitanya, and how to please Lord Chaitanya, or to go through, as in to approach Radha and Krishna, we need to please Lord Chaitanya. And to please Lord Chaitanya, that means sharing Krishna consciousness with others. So, elaborating on that, yes, that is the correct understanding. And a point that I was making the other day is Krishna said at the end of Bhagavad Gita that, the verse Sarvadharma Pratyagya Mame Kam Sharanam Vraja. So surrender unto me. And Lord Chaitanya is saying, wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach them the signs of Krishna. And actually, that instruction is the same. So surrendering to Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and Krishna are non different means. Trying to, whoever you go, wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach them the signs of Krishna. And that's the surefire way to please Lord Chaitanya. Have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita at all?
No, I'm planning on. I've just read like parts of it.
Yeah.
With different classes, but I plan to read it once.
It's pretty mystical. Even hearing about it before, like reading it, I was like, whoa, this sounds like, yeah, pretty crazy, some of the pastimes. But I was just giving class last week and reading through this chapter 9 of the Antya Lila that, is it Antya Lila or Adi Lila? Where it explains Lord Chaitanya as the transcendental gardener. So he's both the tree himself that's bearing the fruits of love of God, and he's the gardener. And so in these famous verses, he explains like, I'm just one person. How can I distribute all these fruits myself? Like calling on, us to help him distribute the fruits. And in that way, he'll be so pleased. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do whatever he wants. But he's letting the devotees also share in that nectar and take the credit. Um, yeah, and so in that, it's the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains more about this, how Lord Chaitanya is actually Radha Krishna combined, and the different moods of Lord Chaitanya, and like, yeah. So it definitely explains it in more depth. Does that help? Yeah.
That's like one more point. So like back to the verse that you were sharing today, Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that we all should have this determination. Um, like we're so fallen, and oftentimes I find that when I'm when I'm wanting to share, and then I may come across somebody who doesn't know anything, and sometimes that's really easy, and sometimes that's like the greatest challenge for me because like even recently, I was having a conversation with a friend, and they were saying something about the food, and of course, it just looks like regular food, but to us, it's like it's been offered. It's prasad. So I was finding myself getting a little irritated, and then I'm thinking, like, why am I getting irritated? Like, my job is to teach them, and it's my fault. I'm just really mad at myself because I didn't explain this to them properly. And so that's like my biggest challenge. It's like finding a way to give Krishna consciousness to people in a way that they can receive it, and it's not always the same, just got to be creative. And so this is something that I'm really beginning to, I guess, understand deeply, or understand deeper, should I say, that this is how we please Krishna. This is how we please, this is how we get in, this is how we get in, this is how we get in. We have to please Lord Chaitanya. So this happened to be the very last good thing that you said. And yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. That's such a nice meditation you have. Just even, I mean, that's like the perfect use of intelligence is taxing your brain. How can I better give Krishna according to time, place, circumstance, and person? And that's a lifetime of work. I mean, even our spiritual master, he's told me like he looks back at the previous year and he sees like, oh, how he could improve and in terms of giving Krishna to others. But it's not like a lamentation thing. It's like, okay, we're learning and we keep, and as our bhakti deepens, we can have more of an effect with like less effort. I mean, yeah, it's pretty inconceivable in seeing less effort in a sense that very advanced devotees they don't even have to say much and they can just like touch people's hearts. So it's very gradual. Um, Also, you're not at the beginning of your Krishna consciousness, but at the very beginning, it's like at least I went through this, and I've heard a lot of other devotees where they're just like, "Oh my God, I want to give this to everybody," and I just want to like tell them exactly the philosophy, like, um, just kind of trying to force it down their throats, basically. I did that, and with a few people, and it definitely had. Initially, it was good, and then it met with some resistance. So always great to give people prasadam, even if they don't know the value. If they do know the value, that's really good because then they get a human form of life in their next life. But if even if they take prasad, that guarantees that they will take prasadam in their next life. So yeah, it's this is like that is so pleasing to Lord Chaitanya, even that you're just thinking in this way. Like, and I feel like we'll always feel like there's more and more to do. I mean, babies are being born every day, so we're always going to have people to like, okay, how do I talk to this person? And that's slightly different than this other person. They might even be like pretty much the same demographic, but it's bhakti is so personal that what resonates with one person might not be the next, and that's what keeps the challenge fresh. So thank you for bringing up that point. Anybody else have reflections or?
I can share a reflection.
Yeah.
Works next when we get there. Yeah, sounds good. So, I take part in various different yoga practices when it comes to bhakti, and I've just watched other devotees in different forms, and their levels of advancement, and I see the other ones, that it takes a long period of time until a person becomes soft in the heart. The very advanced or the advanced devotees, it's like they reach a level of bhakti, perhaps. Don't have much to say about that, but I see from just being within ISKCON and so on over the years that even at an early level, people's hearts soften and makes a big difference in just the people that they're around, their families, that it ignites a spark in others to maybe not take the path, but to change within.
Mhm. Thank you. That was perfectly concise summary. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I often think about that whenever I see my family, is I'm like, wow, do you guys not notice that I'm like a much less angry person? Because then, yeah, when in material life, when you're just like, there's just so much anger pent up because you're just not using your energies properly. And it's just like angry at them, angry at the world, like the anger's got to be directed somewhere. So I'm like, wow. Um, yeah, sometimes it's easy to see those changes if you, or like if you don't see a friend for a while, right? And then you've been practicing bhakti for a while and then you see them again. It's like, whoa, you're different. Anybody else have anything? Have anything? Oh, yes. Take a shot.
When you're talking about facing Krishna, feeling Radha Krishna by thinking about Chaitanya, and made me think of how in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna told Arjuna, after telling him that he's given him the most confidential of all knowledge, that he told him that explaining the supreme secret to the one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees is the most dear devotee to him. So that just made me think of that person is very practical.
That's so nice. Thank you.
I also wanted to say that I completely
agree with what you were just saying about like meeting an old friend or something again that that you haven't seen in quite some time, and then you've um, gone so much further with your bhakti practice, and you've had some sort of softening in your heart, and you've just noticed it just by the way you've interacted with them since the last time you may have interacted with them probably. But so I definitely experienced what you were just speaking.
Did they say anything to you? Or did you notice the
I
difference?
more have
Yeah,
noticed,
yeah.
but I have had some people. I think I've a couple of people. I have had specifically one friend that I used to hang out with a lot. Used to do all sorts of stuff,
Hmm.
but now if I see him, I've tried to share what I can, and he's appreciated the change that he noticed in me. So that was very nice.
Nice. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? That was a, yeah, that was a very nice point. Thank you so much for sharing. And sometimes even people that are not, they don't even know you, but something like overcomes them and they're just like, whoa. That's only happened to me once, I think. In New Zealand, actually, I was at a like a food co-op, and Kiwis, New Zealanders are very like quite reserved, I would say 99%. But this lady was checking me out and she's like, I just have to tell you, like, what, there is something very different about you. Like, your energy is very strong right now. And I had just been like chanting on my way there. And I was so taken aback by that. And she was taken aback that she said it, like that it came out of her mouth. I was like, whoa, that's the only time it's happened to me. But I've heard for actually advanced devotees, like, it happens all the time. Like, people run after them in the airport and they're like, I just gotta say, man, like, what is different about you? And they're like, what are you into? Um, so yeah. Anyway, the doors will open. Thank you guys so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Premanande. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Anybody like to read? Certainly. And Prabhupada will accept.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalavakati Sharma Bandhu Mate Bandhu Moisa Bhagavan Shri Guru Charana We continue singing as well. Should we continue? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Jai Shri Radha Damodar ki Radha Tobi Shakti ki Srila Prabhupada ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna ki Jai Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Let's discuss it.